And the dollar's dominance is holding its ground. A new report by Morgan Stanley says the US dollar's dominant reserve currency status is likely to endure here. So I invited senior analyst at FX Street, Joseph Trevasani. Here his thoughts on the subject. Thank you very much for being here today again, Joseph. Always great to chat with you. So we're talking about the dollar today because Morgan Stanley released a report saying that to them, the dollar being as the reserve currency is going to stay that way for a while. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I mean, why can't the world just move away from the dollar?
Thank you for having me. The biggest problem, probably twofold. One is that there really isn't any alternative. If you look at the last transition from a different reserve currency, which was the British pound, the United States as a major world power, as a major economy, was waiting to take over the stage. There is nothing now that can replace the dollar, either as far as trust goes, accessibility, legal status, or size of market.
What about gold? We're seeing central banks stock up on gold right now. Can't we go back to a gold standard and then potentially move away from the dollar to gold?
Well, there are a couple of problems with gold. One is there's not a whole lot of it, and there's not really enough of it to support the idea of gold-backed currencies. The world is also very used to a floating rate. It's been more than 50 years now. So I don't think gold is really an alternative as a basis for the global economy.
So in that Morgan Stanley report, they mentioned the Chinese yuan, saying that it's the most talked about alternative. And we know that China's economy is second to the U.S. Yes. And some argue that potentially one day China's economy could overtake the U.S. And wouldn't that be a potential substitute for the dollar if that day happens?
Well, as the China's economy may be second to the United States in size, but its position as far as trust and a custodian of assets is far, far behind the United States. I don't think any investors would trust their long-term plentiful reserves to the administrations of the Beijing government. In the United States, there is a legal system that the world respects and that you can find outlet for your grievances. I don't think anyone believes that about China.
What if China becomes the world's biggest economy with the military backing that up? I mean, yes. Production happens, a lot of it actually in China, a lot of factories there. So it has some economic might there to sort of persuade yes. people, if you will, to use their currency.
That is true. And, you know, if the Chinese economy overtakes the United States, it becomes, and it is right now, in many cases, a greater consumer of resources on many types of resources in the United States. And that would, of course, put pressure on resource suppliers, and they would probably come from China to price and accept payment in yuan. Yuan is not, however, a floating currency. It's managed by the Chinese government, and it's tightly controlled by the Chinese government. So the idea that that would become a floating currency, a means of payment around the world, is certainly not anywhere on the horizon. An additional problem, of course, and one that I think might precipitate some sort of result that you're talking about, would be a conflict, military conflict between the United States and China over Taiwan that the United States lost. I think that could be the event that might precipitate some sort of movement.